First of all, to host the Olympics, your city has to meet three requirements. They have to go through rigorous evaluation. First of all, the city has to be big enough to host the Olympics for like tourists and all that. They have to have positive media coverage, and they have to be willing to pay more taxes to buy or purchase and build all the different infrastructure needed. China hosted the Olympics in 2008 in Beijing, and America hasn't hosted them since 1996. Even though they have a bid in, they can't get it. The cities aren't. They just can't beat up the foreign countries like China.
Yi Guizhou is a lawyer in China who fought for people who were evicted and was sentenced to 8 years, he was sentenced to 4 years in prison after a 24-hour, from when he was arrested to when he was convicted, it was less than 24 hours, and he remains in prison to this day. He was only sentenced for 4 years.
What did he do?
He had a petition that collected 10,000 signatures, and he was in prison for inciting subversion of state power.
So he was going against the government?
He was trying to get the people who got evicted at least some money, or fight to get them not just lose everything they own.
Okay. You go against the government?
And
things happen.
China also ordered the removal of 10,000 migrant workers, prostitutes, and petitioners out of the city Olympics when Beijing rang, and arrested those who didn't.
So what's wrong with getting rid of prostitution, which is illegal in China?
And migrant workers are illegal? Petitioners are illegal?
Illegal workers, migrant, are they illegal?
No, they need to move around.
Oop, my bad. Still, prostitution. My bad.
Tens of thousands they took out of.
Well, at least China can make their own uniforms. In the 2012
Yeah,
Olympics,
no.
after a huge thing, after China made them for America because America can't make their own uniforms because it was cheaper to do it in China.
Obviously making now.
Because you had to. Because you got horrible media coverage over
You always talk about not dwelling on the past, like the fact that you killed 38 million people.
That's why this is within 4 years, not 40, 50, 60 years.
So during 1942, 1943, which you're gonna say is too far long ago,
It is.
Nationalists officially forcibly took grain from peasants to sell for profit, killed 2 million people in the process, which
What year?
1942.
1942 was,
43.
that was, first of all, during World War II, and the new government, the People's Republic of China, wasn't established until 1949, so that is not on the government, and that has nothing to do with how powerful they are now.
Yeah, and they killed 27 million, which is 25 million more than the old ones.
Based on the Great Leap Forward.
Forcibly changing of.
They covered that. Move on.
Forget the 25 million people, I guess.
Okay, well, anyway, China produces the most energy in the world, totaling 5,650,000,000,000 kilowatt hours a year.
And you consume more than you use, so you have to import all that energy, which I still don't even know how you do that.
Why do we cost so much? Okay, China exports 18.1 billion kilowatt hours a year in energy, and that's ranked 11th in the world. And they only import 6.75 billion kilowatt hours a year, and that's ranked 35. There are, and compared to America, who exports 13 billion but imports 67 billion, China's making a lot more energy and exporting a lot more than they're importing, so they're making money on energy while America's importing a lot more, 67 billion kilowatt hours a year, And that's ranked second in the world for import of energy.
How do you make your energy?
They have different things. There's a
Like
power
coal?
plant. You guys use coal too?
If we're progressively moving forward, which is what your country's doing and everything, I guess.
35% of America's energy is used on coal, and another 35 is produced off natural gas. And the rest is in between then, like old clean energy, but then there's some other stuff in there like oil. Coal and natural gas is different.
Okay, okay, you're building islands, which seems great and all, but you put them right next to
Can you
the
explain to them what that-
Philippines. Okay, so China is pretty much making islands and telling every other country that they're not making islands, and they it's pretty much right next to the Philippines, and it's like 110 miles away from the Philippines,
Oh, okay.
and like 500 miles away from China. So China thinks they own like all of the South China Sea, and it's been disputed between China and the Philippines for a long time. And 2012, China evicted Filipino fishermen from the area and militarized it, and now they're just creating islands all over the place.
China is making islands for the military in the sea, China's sea, and around the Pacific, and they're doing this to give their military a base and extend their influence deeper into the Pacific Ocean so they can react to threats quicker.
What they're doing is agitating the other countries around them. 1974, China attacked and took over islands that were held by Vietnam and Taiwan. So they actually invaded islands that were held by other countries. And
Didn't count as the Vietnam War when America went in and was playing games over there too.
China was also. America didn't seize land. You take it.
That's what happens in war. You win and you lose. In America, China's a winner.
Yeah. So war. You want to go to war?
Military.
America is a part of NATO, which makes up every single country in the European continent except for Sweden, Austria, Cyprus, Finland, Ireland, Malta, and Switzerland. We are formerly allied and just a little part from the NATO treaty. Parties agree that an armed attack against one or more of them in Europe or North America shall be considered an attack against them all. Will assist parties or parties so attack such action as deems necessary, including the use of armed force to restore the mainland and security of the North Atlantic Sea. So that means all of these countries in one of the richest continents in the world have sworn that if you do anything against us, they will all attack, including us.
If we attacked you and we had Russia, which is the second biggest military in North Korea, it would just be total chaos. And we still
It would be total chaos because we would outnumber you 2-1.
Well, China still has 619 million people fit to serve in the military. And that number could be, they could put those people to work, and we have the economy to support gearing up for war. We have the factories, and you're just losing factories, 500,000 factory jobs a year to China.
Yeah. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Great Depression, World War II. Same case scenario. We're in a recession now. And okay, so maybe it's not a 6% increase. It's still gonna be a huge increase. And where China is and where America is on GDP scale, it's not that big of a difference. 19 trillion to 18 trillion isn't that big of a change.
But the growth rate is a difference, and every year the growth rate will continue to get bigger.
So our major ally plus us double your size.
Talking about GDP.
Yeah.
Their GDP is no effect on how America's GDP is.
Yeah, but they're a
No,
major
they're in the country.
contributor, they're a major ally.
And China's a big contributor to the world. It's huge facts.
And so is America, since they control 22% of the global market, if you take into account China's inflation rate.
Let's talk about America's big debt of 19 trillion and growing every year. Wow.
And how we only owe 1 trillion to China.
They still have 19 trillion,
You owe
the biggest
1
in the world, and China only has 958 billion worth of debt. That is crushing on you. We have government shutdowns. You've had 12 since 1989. 12 government shutdowns, and China has had none.
Yeah,
Because your
what we
government,
shut down?
you shut down because
The
your government can't
non-essentials.
pass funding because you're so in debt. 'Cause you're,
We only owe you $1.15 trillion.
okay, yours will-
You owe us $1 trillion.
No, China's debt is only 958 billion, and you have 19 trillion in the world. You know, crippling that is to an economy.
Our debts to each other cancel out.
Okay, you're still way in debt, and China has no debt then. If they have
We-
900.
We're still in debt. Well, all of that debt isn't to other countries, it's still to our people as well.
Yeah, you know what, it's horrible for the country, 19 trillion, world's biggest debt ever.
Yeah, and we still have 22% control of the global market with that debt. And we can still spend 600 billion on our military with that debt.
And
It's
that's
not
just
stopping
getting bigger
us from,
every year.
it's not stopping us from doing anything.
It's shutting down your government. You know what that does to everything?
You know what it shut down? The marsh.
Social services are shut down.
BPS. It hardly affects our countries.
It does affect your country.
They shut down the non-essentials. They don't shut down the military. They don't just, all ships come in and land, all planes fly in.
Someday that debt will catch up to this country.
Someday you might be able to pay it off.
Okay, it's growing every year, and you're spending more and more every year than you're trying to pay back.
We have no debt to the Chinese.
I'm not saying of debt. You have some, I'm not saying the debt to China doesn't matter, the debt in general matters. How about total dependency rate for your country? China's total dependency rate is 36.6%, and what that is people from 0 to 14 years of age, and 65 and older. And Americans is 50.9%. So what that means is that's burdening your working class to have to pay for the people that can't support themselves, and that's going to take money from people that could be spending on helping their economy and helping their own families, while China's so much lower.
About the fact that you can't support 963 million people on a 2,000-calorie diet due to your lack of farmland.
We import food and we're producing a lot, so we've already covered that.
Yeah, and if there were any type of wartime, we wouldn't trade with you, and we could basically start your country out of existence.
And we're producing the most in value-wise.
What?
And we're still producing the most, 300 billion more in agriculture output a year.
I found that America was biggest exporter.
Also, your future farming is in trouble. American farmers under the age of 34 is only 5.4%. China has 20.3% of their farmers under the age of 34. Your future of farming is pretty scary, to be honest.
We're also
You won't be able to produce the same numbers if you don't have future farmers to take up over this, to take up after them.
Yeah, but also increasing our technology because we're educating more and more people, and we create more big farms than compared to your small local farms.
Still don't have people to run all these farms in the future.
Because they're being mechanicalized. Besides, the U.S. is the biggest exporter to China agriculturally, where America sells $26 billion in food to China.
Yeah, Yeah, China imports.
America has a $19.5 billion trade surplus with China.
And I found that China has, they only import 1.5 trillion a year and they export 2.14 trillion worth of goods every year. That is a substantial.
Is that with America or is that overall? I'm saying trade, us trade, we come out ahead, $19.5 billion every year.
Yeah, the US, I found that the US imports 439 billion worth of goods from China while only exporting 141 billion to us overall. That's what I found.
Well, that's not that long, so move on.
So what do you guys have left for topics?
We tried to.
We covered pretty much every topic, we just bounce around.
Okay, should we open it up to questions?
Sure.
Questions for Colin?
Hi, Colin.
I got a couple. So you just talked about how the US comes out ahead with China and trade. Can you explain that? Like how?
That's just agriculturally,
Okay.
that was.
Okay. All right, that's good. Are you concerned about China buying many US companies? Got so excited, it's on his paper.
I had that.
I personally, no, because I feel like, if it ever gets to that point where China pretty much owns us, I feel like the American person would morally switch their buying habits, personally.
China has spent 130 billion buying out foreign companies from America this year alone.
Still have
Big notable
120
countries, Smith & Foods and GE Appliances. They're buying out American food companies to support the population, and then you guys can't do anything to shut it down. And GE Appliances, another huge American company that just got bought out.
We still have 128 of the top 500 companies in the world that are headquartered in America,
Okay, we're gonna go to questions.
which is greater than 25%.
Anything else for Colin?
Okay, so you had stuff about the cadmium in the rice,
Yeah.
if that's how you pronounce it. What was the stats on that again? Like the 60% in the south of China and then?
Southern China has 60% of all the rice had cadmium in it, and then China as a whole had 10% of cadmium in it. And it comes from like having mines too close to farms.
Questions for Colin, anything? For Dylan?
Okay, so with the global power index with firearms, you said China was number 2 and Russia was number 1, I mean number 3,
No, Russia's 2, China's 3.
what's number 1?
America. It's not firearms,
I like
it's like
that.
military objectives, and equipment and everything.
So, destruction.
Got a question there.
What was the unemployment rate for China?
4%. And America's is 5.3.
Wait, this is just in general, I didn't see it before. So the islands that China is like making, what is it made out of?
They're pumping sand from the bottom of the ocean onto like reefs or shallows in the ocean, and they're building them up.
Okay.
And kicking the fishermen off and putting military bases.
My goodness, this is gonna stop.
Is that causing an environmental impact on China? I mean, I don't think they would notice it.
They took out
It's
one of the
500 miles
biggest
from the main.
coral reefs in that
So
area.
then and then how far away is it from Indonesia?
Like 100 or so.
So is it
There's
affecting
more,
Indonesia at all?
Not more, I don't think.
Yeah,
There's
it's
more
taking them off. It really is.
Oh my
Dylan's
goodness.
time here.
Yeah, my time.
Like environmentally, like
Sad combination.
Questions for Dylan?
I don't know who it's specifically for, but why would China ever go to war with the U.S.?
Yeah, it's fine. I don't know. They would.
I was just using it as a scenario to prove that America is number one. The military is a big part of ranking a country.
So is the economy.
Anything else for Dylan?
On the side.
I got one.
Yep.
And it might be two or three, but it all starts from one. Are you concerned about the rising wage rate in China?
Like wages going up.
Yep.
Not concerned because their GDP is growing every year. Also with the GDP per capita, China's like, since they're kind of a country, I should explain this. I think though their GDP per capita is lower, their goods and services in the country will be lower to meet that. Because of the kind of this country, they want low, everything low, their folks, they don't have to pay them as much, but it still works out.
Do you have anything about how exports are changing in China due to the rising wage rate?
Like what they're exporting or just exports in general?
Like, how is the rising wage rate affecting exports?
I have not found that.
Okay. Anything else?
Wait, so you have, how many people are starving? You kind of talked about that. Is there like a comparison from the US starving rate to the China?
There's a percentage of
There's
below
a
the poverty
poverty
rate.
rate, but
China has a 6.1% and America has a 15.1%.
And then for crop production, I believe that was your stat. What was China versus the US?
Or like, money-wise,
Like production rate?
I have like gross,
I have it the other way.
I have, America spent, or like they produced 232.4 billion in gross agriculture output, while China made 555.2 billion, and that's according to Iowa State.
I had different.
Anything else? Closing statements?
It's been proven that China is a superior and more powerful country over the United States. China has a larger labor force, more college graduates, and a larger GDP that is drastically increasing at a rate of 7 times faster per year than the United States. Finally, shouldn't the most powerful country in the world have enough pride to make their own Olympic uniforms? Apparently not. American textile factories that are already struggling lost the opportunity to make their own team's Olympic uniforms, and instead a Chinese company got the bid. The United States doesn't believe in their own factories, but they clearly believe in China's.
In the end, there is no debate. China does in fact lead in many economical categories, but America is right behind them in almost every single one. And China is just too traditional, isolated, and stuck in the past to ever threaten the United States and its allies. And at the end of the day, no country that oppresses women, takes advantage of their people, and doesn't build strong alliances in the global market will ever succeed on this planet.
1, 2,